So if you missed this in class or were absent, I'm going to walk you through how to make this die. So our die is a basic size die. It has 1, 2, and 3 on 3 sides written in text. Then it has 4, 5, and 6 in dot form on the other side. We got some curved edges, and the number faces have a slight inset on them. So I'm going to start by making a new model. Again, whenever you make a model, you should always have a little bit of plan of attack. So we're going to draw a square, make an extrude. That'll give us the base size of our die. We can then round some of the edges off. After that, we'll put the 1, 2, and 3 on the sides by creating a cut extrude. Then we can put the 4, 5, and 6 on the sides by creating another cut extrude for each of those. But we'll walk through and use a couple different techniques for creating the dots in the way that they are created. So we'll start creating a sketch. I'm going to create it on the bottom. We're working in millimeters, so I'm going to make creating a center rectangle. Click right in the center. I'm going to pull out. So as you're doing this, you can actually type in dimensions. I'm going to make mine a 30 millimeter by 30 millimeter die. So I can type in 30. I'll tab over to the other side. Type in 30 there. Hit enter. There's my 30 by 30 die. You could also have done this and dimension it afterwards. Or if I want to go back and change something, I can go back and double click on these and make them a different size if I need to, but 30 by 30 sounds good to me. So I'm done with my sketch. I'll hit stop sketch. Now I'm going to extrude it. I do that by going to the second menu, the create menu, click the extrude button. Looks like a kind of skyscraper. Now first, if we look over here at the extrude dialog box, it's going to ask us to pick a profile. Profile is really a sketch that we made. So I'm going to choose the square that I drew. I can choose more than one of these. I only have one right now, but if I had a more complex drawing that had multiple sketches, I could choose multiple sketches. So now it's going to ask me how I want to extrude this two-dimensional shape. Remember, extrude means to drag it into a third dimension. So I can do this a few ways. One way is I can just drag, if you notice this arrow showed up, I can click on the arrow and just drag it into 3 dimensions. You also can notice that there is a number value here. This is the distance I just dragged it up, so I could type in a distance to extrude it. I could also come over here to the dialog box and enter a distance where it says distance. So I want to extrude mine 30 millimeters, but I also want to do one thing. I want to extrude it so that the plane I drew this on is directly in the center of it. So I'm going to go to where it says direction in the extrude dialog. Switch it to symmetric. So I could also do 2 sides, or I could drag this side somewhere as well. Or if I do symmetric, whatever I do on one side, the same is going to happen to the other side. So I want to make this 30 by 30, but if I make my dimension 30, it actually just 30 on the top and 30 on the bottom. There's also a second, right underneath the direction, there's a second choice. So the choice that's automatically selected is half length, which means whatever number you type in, it's going to go on one side and the other side. If you click full length or whole length, the value you type in for the distance is actually the complete value, and it just splits it up for you automatically. So I'm going to choose the whole length version. So my whole side is 30 millimeters, half on this side, and then half on the bottom. I'm happy with that, so I'll hit OK. So now we have our cube, and you can see that the plane goes directly through the middle of it. So at this point, I'm going to round my edges. Sometimes you don't round your edges till the end, but because I'm drawing stuff on the side, I want to choose a round and make sure that the stuff I draw on the side is on the flat part, not on the curved part. So rounds are called fillets. So if you go up to now the modify button up here, drop it down. The second one down is fillet. There's also an F there, which means we can use just F for a shortcut in the future. So I'll click fillet. Now it's asked me to click on whatever edges I want to fillet. I'm just going to click on all the edges of our cube. That's a cube, so there should be 12 total. And as I'm clicking, you can see right here, this number is going up, keeping track of what I click. And they're also turning blue, so I can see which ones I've clicked already. And it looks like I got them all. I can check here, 12, I have them all. So now I can grab this arrow and just drag it if I want to visually change this. So I can kind of drag it in to where I want it. That looks pretty good. And there's also actually 2 types of fillets you can make. If you go over here, spin this back to normally, to where it says radius type, there's constant radius and there's chord length, so you can kind of change either the radius of your edge, or you can define it by how far it is from here along the edge. There's also a corner type. This is called rolling wall, where it's basically the same distance from the top to the bottom. They're all a quarter of a radius. If I go to instead setback, if you notice, look at what happens to the actual corners right here. They kind of are, I guess they're set back a little bit, and it gives you just a slightly different effect. I'm going to keep the setback effect. That looks good to me. I'll hit OK. I'm also going to come down here and change my style. I'm going to add the edges just so I can see a little bit better where I'm going to draw my shapes. Alright, so now I'm the base setup of my die. Now I can start adding some numbers to the sides. To do that, I'm going to go back up and create a sketch. But this time, instead of selecting one of the internal planes, I'm going to select one of the sides, or one of the faces of this. So I'll pick this one. And now I'm going to go to sketch and choose, instead of sketching shapes, I'm going to sketch text. Sketch text. I'm going to click where I want the text to start. This is where the bottom left of your text is going to be. So I'll click there. Now this text dialog pops open. It's asking me what I want to be displayed. I want the number 1. I'm going to make mine a little bit bigger. Let's make it 20. See what that looks like. Seems reasonable. You can also change the font. Let's go there. And then I want to kind of center it. So I'm just going to grab this blue dot and just drag it to where I think it looks good. That seems reasonable right there. And I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to stop my sketch. So now I have this sketch drawn, and now if I want to, I don't want you to sit there like it's painted on. I want to indent it into the side a little bit. So I'm going to go create an extrude, click on the number 1, and this time I'm going to drag it into the object. If you notice when I drag it into the object, it turns this pinkish red instead of blue. And if you look over here, the operation, it automatically switched to a cut. The last one, it was either a new body or a join. But because I'm going into the material, the program is guessing that I want to remove material instead of add material, which it was correct. I'm going to make this go in about 2, so I'm going to put -2 for my distance. I could have also dragged it that way. Either way is fine. And I'm happy with that, so okay. There's the 1. I'm also going to, actually we'll do the 2 over here. So I'm going to create another sketch, go through some a little bit quicker. Put some text on it. I believe I made it 20, and I use Julian, and drag it so it's about centered. Happy there. Stop my sketch, do an extrude, choose the 2, and I'm going to type -2 this time because I know how far I want it to go in. And let's throw the 3 on the top. If you notice this time the 3 looks upside down, that's just because of the shape of my, or the way my plane's oriented. So I can, I mean, if you want to keep it that way, it's perfectly fine. I can just move it there and it's fine. If you, for some reason, want it the other way, you can grab this circle here. So this is moves around the number. This circle here, if I grab it, will actually rotate it around. I can rotate it 180 degrees, grab this again, and bring it back. If that's one of those things that bothers you if you can't see upside down, but it's a die, so it doesn't really matter too much. That looks good. Stop my sketch. Click on the 3, extrude it in 2 again, and we're looking good. So now, before I also notice with these letters, with the number sides, I want to indent the face a little bit. So I'm going to now go, I'm not going to draw a sketch. I'm just going to click extrude. I'm going to click on this face, and I'm going to extrude it 1 millimeter in. So again, if I'm extruding something that's already sketched in here, if I want to extrude a shape that exists on my model, I don't have to actually make a new sketch. I can just click on that shape. So I'll do it with the other 2 sides. Extrude it -1. And 1 more for the top. Again, -1. And so we have our 3 sides with numbers on them with a little slight indent as well. So now we're going to do the sides with the dots on them. So let's spin it around. So I'm going to create a sketch on this side. Let's put 4 on this side. So I'm going to do this just by drawing some circles. So this is the one technique, the kind of non-fancy technique, I guess. So I'm just going to draw a circle up here somewhere. And it doesn't matter the size. So we're going to show you how to dimension it to get the exact size. So my circle's there. Now it's not exactly where I want it to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the D button, just the character D. I'm going to click on my circle and drag off, and there's the dimension. So I'm going to dimension this. I want my circle to be 6 millimeters. Type in 6, and the circle now is exactly that size. I can always go back and change it. That's one thing that's nice about these programs. They're parametric, where you can go back and edit the values as many times as you want. I also want to tell the software where the circle is. It's right now just kind of floating anywhere, so I'm going to use the letter D. Click on the center of my circle. Click on the center of my whole drawing here, where the two axes cross, and drag it up. And I'm going to put this, let's say I want that to be, I don't know, 5 from the center. That puts it there. One more dimension, so I'm going to go from the center of my circle to the bottom down here. And you notice if I drag this to different places, it's just going to try to dimension it from that point to this point. So it could be straight horizontally, it could be straight vertically, or it'll also let me dimension it at an angle, which I don't really want. I want the vertical part, so I'll just drag this out here. Let's make that also 5. So I have a circle there. Now I'm just going to do the same thing 3 more times. So we'll do this a little bit faster. All right, there we go. Now you might have noticed that's kind of tedious. We're basically repeating the same thing again and again and again. Actually, this number didn't even get put in right. But that's okay. So I'm going to show you next how to do this a little bit quicker. So I'm going to stop this sketch though, and I just want to extrude these. Let's rotate it, extrude it. I'm going to click. I can click all of them now. So click all 4 dots. I'm going to extrude them all 1 in. So I'll put -1, and there are those 4. So let's put a 5 over here. So I'm going to create a new sketch over here. And I'm going to start by creating a circle. I'm using the C shortcut now. Put one right in the center. And I'm going to type in 6 as I'm doing this. I want it to be about the same size. And I'm going to create one more circle up here. You notice if you type while you're actually drawing them, it saves you a step. You don't have to go back and actually dimension the circle again. And now I want this circle, I'm going to kind of put it where I want it, the same way I did before. So I'm going to do a dimension from the center. I don't know what just happened there. Dimension from the center to the center. And I think we said it was 5 before. So I'm trying to match the layout on the 4. Now I really want to take this circle and just do the same thing on the other 4. So I can do that by using a pattern. If I go back to sketch, move it down to where it says, I'm going to do it using a mirror actually, sorry about that. Where it says mirror, I can click on that, click on my circle. Now it's going to look for a mirror line. Now the problem is I don't really have one because it doesn't let me select this up and down line. So I kind of have to create one this time that I'm going to mirror across. So I'm going to back out of this for a second, and I'm going to create what we call a construction line. So construction lines are just guidelines that you can use to help you sketch things. Kind of like when an artist draws lightly with a pencil, then goes over it with dark marker to do their final drawing. So I'm going to go over to our sketch palette, click construction, and now I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to let it snap right to the center. So I'm going to snap right to this green line and draw it completely vertically. It doesn't really matter how long, and after I'm done, you can click this little checkbox. That means you're done drawing a line. Draw one more sideways. And now I'm going to uncheck construction because I don't want to make a mistake and draw a bunch of construction lines. So now I have these 2 lines that cross through this thing that are going to allow me to draw something a little bit easier. So now I'm going to go back and do my mirror. I'm going to choose my circle. And when it says mirror line, I'm going to pick this construction line, and it copies the circle right across. I'm going to do a second mirror. And I'm going to pick both circles. And for the mirror line, pick the horizontal construction line. And it copies those right across. And now I have all 4 of my circles. I don't know what this line is. Let's get rid of that. I have all 4 circles on the outside. And what's really nice, if I wanted to go back and change them, say all these dots are too big, they're a little bit close to each other. If I go back and change the dimension of the first one, all the other ones changed with it because they were built based on the original one. Let's make these all 5 just so they're a little bit farther apart. Now it looks good. I'll stop the sketch, rotate a little bit, do another extrude. Now I'm going to pick all 5 of these circles and extrude them -1. All right, the last side we got is the 6 side. So I'm going to draw a sketch on this side. This time we're going to try to use a pattern where I can just draw one circle and then create all the rest of them from it. So I'm going to come in here, draw my center circle up here somewhere. Okay, it doesn't matter exactly where. Let's make this 5 because we're going to dimension it in a second anyways. Hit D for dimension. I'm going to dimension it with respect to here. Let's do it. Let's start with 5. We can change it later if we need to. And we'll go. This time we're going to go up a little bit farther. I'm going to go up 6 so I have more room. So we'll start there. Now I'm going to go to the sketch again, and almost at the bottom there's something called a rectangular pattern. I'm going to choose that. I'm going to select this circle. And if you notice, 2 arrows pop up, and if I take one of them and just drag it, it'll actually make copies of that circle. In this case, it says it's set to make 3 copies, a total of 10 millimeters apart. Now I only want 2, so I can change the 3 to a 2, and that gets rid of the middle one. And again, this looks like it's pretty much centered. I know it is because it's 10 millimeters, and I started 5 from here. So if I go 5 in, that's the middle. 5 more, that puts me at the same on the other side. So that's how wide I want them to be. And now I can grab the other arrow and drag it down. Oops, drag it down. As I drag it down, it's going to make multiple copies again. And this time I do want 3 of them. And I started 6 up, so I want to drag it down a total of, let's go down one more, a total of 12, so it's symmetrical. And now if you notice, I have 2 columns, 3 rows. They're separated by what I want, so it's looking good. Hit enter, stop the sketch, and I got my 6 holes, or 6 dots, and I did them all with just 1 circle. Now our last step is just to extrude them all. Go in 1. And we finished our die. So we'll spin it back and look at it from the front. See our die. We have 1, 2, 3 in text form on 3 sides with a little indent, and we have 4, 5, and 6 on the other sides.